Hey everyone, thank you for attending today. Today's webinar is on Business Central, and specifically ERP Excellence for 2023. Within this is going to be our top 5 reasons to move to cloud ERP software. So, welcome, and to kick us off, we have Ahmed, who's going to be our keynote today.
Thank you very much, Scott. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ahmed Othmani. I lead the small and medium business and scale, which is our growth accounts segment for Microsoft Canada, focus on Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. And today, I'm very, very happy to join one of our top partners, Endeavour, and this opportunity and share with you from our perspective as Microsoft, what are the reasons to actually move to the cloud and how we can help companies. But first of all, I want to share some stats. If you can move to the next slide, please. Because we're talking about SMBs and especially growth accounts, the traditional financial management system doesn't really allow for rapid change. And we did a lot of surveys, especially during the pandemic and post-pandemic. So what we got from those surveys as Microsoft is that 73% of employees want flexible hybrid work options to stay post-pandemic. So what we thought was going to be a temporary normal is become the new normal for us. And a really important stat is that 76% of our CFOs are dissatisfied with cross-functional collaboration to bridge the gap between operational and finance planning. So our customers today need to have a really clear vision from the lead to cash. That's how Microsoft and Endeavour can help companies achieve that through their digital transformation. With that said, if we can move to the next slide, like Microsoft has put a lot of research, R&D into Dynamics 365, and especially for SMBs to Business Central. As you can see, it is a unified platform. Our goal as Microsoft is to make your business vision a reality, with the adaptability, performance, and insight needed to outpace the competition. And when I see performance and adaptability, it's really something that is crucial, but most importantly is the insight, your ability to make your data talk. So 3 pillars helping you adapt faster. How do we do that? Innovate and adapt new business models faster with flexible deployment models, mobility, reliability, of course, security, and adapt to the Microsoft Cloud solution that really helps grow your business. Because we invested as Microsoft more than 10 years to actually build the Microsoft Cloud, which is the most comprehensive, the most integrated cloud. And we see a lot of our competitors buying other companies to try to replicate what Microsoft did. But most importantly, perform better. How do you empower people to be more collaborative, more productive, and more impactful with actionable insight, interoperability between M365, Dynamics 365, Business Central, Word, Excel, and Outlook to not make them switch from application, but harness that data to work smarter. So enabling high performance with guided workflows, governance, real-time metrics, drive conscious and continuous process optimization, accelerating financial closures, and improve cycle times. So what we did, like if we go to the next slide, Scott, is one of the key things of the Business Central is we rely heavily on our partners ecosystem like Endeavour. And through Business Central, we have within our partner ecosystem, it is our differentiator for Business Central because with more than 2,000 applications designed specifically with Business Central, you can extend your solution with industry-specific application built for Dynamics 365 and Business Central. Even more, you get purpose-driven extensions from Microsoft App Source application with the marketplace, sometimes embedded in your local needs, specific needs. They can be tailored. So Business Central is a tool that can be tailored for your unique vertical and business-specific requirement. So you would tell me, hey, Ahmed, like we hear a lot about Business Central, but what is your fastest growing product? If we can move to the next slide, Scott, something that is really, really relevant, and another click, please, is we see the momentum for Business Central. It is the fastest growing business application product we have in the SAC. Business Central and Power Platform. In 2020, we actually we almost doubled the partners. We quadrupled the outsourced solutions and 10 times X the customers in Canada helping and using a Business Central. So as you can see, it's not only an area of investment for Microsoft, it is the head of the spear as we work with our SMB and our growth accounts. With that, I would like to pass it on to my good friend, Steve, the VP of Endeavour Solutions, to walk you through some of the good stuff that they're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Ahmed. We're honored to have you here today, and we definitely appreciate the ongoing support from Microsoft that you are actively driving, and more importantly, we really appreciate the support that you're helping drive amongst our client network today by your participation. With that, for those that I haven't had an opportunity to meet in past, my name's Steve Ewing. As Ahmed said, I'm Vice President of Endeavour Solutions. Safe to say, I've got a great team that I work with that plays a more active role in the day-to-day operations, but in doing so, I'm going to be leading this today. A little bit about Endeavour. We're a mid to large firm with offices throughout Canada, across all time zones, and in the near future, given our growth globally, we're hoping to add some locations throughout the US. We currently manage just over 860 plus clients, adding on average about 3 to 4 clients a month. So as you would have seen in Ahmed's slide about client growth, it really speaks to the volume and transition that we're seeing in the marketplace with exponential growth really, through the transition and moving towards the cloud. Of those numbers, when we start talking about client acquisition, it's very relevant to note that on average, of that 3 to 4 clients, 55% of our new clients are in fact new projects for Dynamics, but 45% is actually projects or clients that have reached a challenging point of their relationship and looking for an alternative source. And hence, often we get found either based on our presence, our referenceability, or through Microsoft acting, looking to engage, with a partner that has had a proven track record of success. What drives our team? Simply, our team's motivation is driven by helping companies realize operational excellence in leveraging technology, very much aligned with the focus of Microsoft. In 2023, one of the key drivers to this focus is adoption of the cloud, and specifically cloud applications with Microsoft. So why cloud? And more specifically, why are clients moving to a fully SaaSified ERP, Dynamics 365 Business Central? And asking our clients and reviewing various sources of information, we've summarized the 5 above. So when we talk about replacing on-premise services and infrastructure, you're looking at servers that typically are occupying floor space, monopolizing net capital data. As we move more to a remote network, or at least a hybrid type environment, organizations are really looking to replace typically that server and have their data managed elsewhere. Secondly, when we talk about breaking down silos of data, specifically the biggest change that organizations can finally find with a Microsoft solution is they're looking to get away from those 4 and 5 different data sources where you're typically managing independently same data, albeit integrated in some cases, but more often than not isolated. And when you look to match those silos of data, it's very difficult. Finally, with Microsoft's vision in 365 and leveraging Microsoft 365 and leveraging Microsoft Azure, Dynamics 365 Business Central, Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement, or for those that come from my era, CRM, you now have really the ability to manage a fully unified platform where you have one version of the truth. Set it and forget it, enter it once. Improve security. more often than not, we continue to hear about hacking, ransomware, and all those challenges as it relates to managing our data. Yet now we're relying in the Microsoft Azure and allowing Microsoft, a company that invests over $24 billion in R&D every year, now going to be managing and overseeing our data. Financial resiliency, the ability to plan, manage, and not have to worry about challenging situations when you're leveraging, your investment in operational excellence. And then last but not least, often in an on-premise environment, typically you're dealing with updates, upgrades, hot fixes, service packs, and typically new releases that tend to come out often every 2 years. Now in a fully SaaSified, full cloud investment, you're looking at always being current, always being relevant, always being on the latest and greatest, ensuring that your team isn't going to have to shut down the environment, lock the system down, or live through another transition where things occur. Where does that all lead us to? Digital transformation. So when we talk about a digital transformation, what is it? It's really more than migrating to the cloud. It's just not a simple like for like. It's an investment in making your organization better. So how does this all start? It really starts with a process review, and we encourage every client to start thinking about their internal review. What's working? What isn't? What could be improved? Evaluating your processes. Is there a faster, quicker way that you work through this? Then work with experts and suggesting our team, and I'm going to introduce Marvin in a second, who definitely heads up, our largest team by far. Work with experts that include, accountants, consultants, technical, functional. They're going to talk to you about best practices. They're going to be able to look towards optimization in your processes, looking at optimizing the overall design, and then ensuring that what you're looking at and what you envision for your overall environment, can align with a fully SaaSified cloud solution. That said, what we need to provide as a differentiator, the one consistent that we found in managing, and doing this for over 33 plus years, is that every client is unique, and your implementation will in fact be unique. That said, it is critical that you need to invest in an evaluation stage. And when I talk invest, not necessarily the financial investment, but more so a time investment. Migration and implementation without a strong optimal design presents huge risk and puts, the overall project. So when I referenced, on the prior slide, when we talk about 45% of projects, potentially looking for alternatives or a different direction or alternative voice, the simple reality is a canned implementation just doesn't work. Although, Microsoft's vision is, to ensure that clients are always current on the most relevant licenses and expedite the implementation process, often that can put your business at risk if you haven't done the time in the evaluation stage to ensure the implementation is going to best align with your operational needs and your focus. So in saying that, we'll focus on the unique business drivers that it helps you align your business the way the platform's designed. So with that in mind, and passing it over to Marvin, as a segue into Marvin, a little bit of background. Marvin's a CPA. He's also part of the tech advisory board for the CPA. Safe to say, as he will openly admit, although he does continue to think that he's still in his 30s, he's been doing this for 26 plus years and plays a really instrumental role in managing not only our delivery and fulfillment side of it, but also in working with clients through an evaluation stage. So with that, over to you, Marv.
All right, thanks, Steve. You guys can see my screen okay?
Sure can.
Yes, we can.
Well, I think that's a success already. Okay, so thank you, Steve, and thank you, Scott and Ahmed. As Steve noted, I've been using Dynamics and working in the space for quite a few years. And I'd like to focus more on showcasing what the cloud, Business Central, and transformation of business process can look like for you and the different people on the call today. For my demo, I'm going to focus on a couple different pillars. In specific, ease of use and efficiency, financial resilience, the cloud platform itself, as well as cloud security, which are all important considerations when moving from your current system to a cloud solution. So whether that's an on-premise or what have you to a cloud solution. So business resiliency may depend on how you adopt cloud functionality. Migrating to the cloud makes sense and effort for growth. For example, 62% of companies that have migrated to the cloud have reported an increase in customer satisfaction. Those are some pretty impressive statistics. As well as migrating to the cloud makes sense for customization and adaptability for companies. So companies that have transitioned to the cloud solution have reported a 44% increase in the speed of new product launches due to the utility and tools available to using them. So migrating to the cloud makes sense for security and reliabilities. Companies that have transitioned to the cloud report a 60% reduction in security incidences compared to their traditional on-premise solutions. So these are the pillars that we're going to be talking about: the user efficiency, resiliency, and cloud security. So for my first showcase, I'm going to be going through some of the user efficiency and the efforts that Microsoft has used and built into the Business Central platform. So we're going to take a look at that scenario that every customer faces, that quote to cash scenario, or as a lot of people call it, like email to money. So I'm going to go into Business Central, or actually before I go into Business Central, I'm going to jump right into Outlook. So you're going to see here, I have an email from Carlos Grillo. So Carlos is one of our customers. He works for a company called Adatum Corp. And he would like to get a quote for a couple items that he's listed. So some swivel chairs and conference tables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go hover over top of my contact insights. So my contact insights allows me to basically embed Business Central into Outlook. Okay, so when I click on contact insights up here in the top right or left corner, what you're going to see is our first glimpse of Business Central being incorporated into this, the Microsoft stack. So we've got Outlook and Business Central working together. Now, one of the things you're seeing is I've got Adatum Corp. It recognized my contact, Carlos, belongs to Adatum Corp. That's why it's brought Adatum Corp up to surface here. I'm now going to move over my posted sales shipments. I don't have any balance on this customer, but maybe I want to know a little bit more information about this customer and their buying habits in the past. So I'm going to look at my posted sales shipments here. So from this, I'm getting a listing of those 24 posted sales shipments from the past. I can easily click on any one of these and drill right back into it. So I've got this shipment number 2215. So from here, I've got this visibility. So I'm still in Outlook, remember that. I've got this visibility into a previous order or previous shipments that I've sent out to this customer. And I can see that they've bought, like different desks, chairs, stuff like that. So this order actually makes sense what they're buying. Okay, so I'm just going to click back here for a second. Now, from this, we talked about I want to create a quote. So Carlos is actually looking for a quote for these products. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on the ellipse of the 3 dots over in the top corner here. And I can click on sales quote. So once again, please note, I am not in Business Central right now. I'm still working out of my Outlook. So user adaptability and user adaption to this very quick because people are using Outlook all the time. So let me click on sales quote here. Before it's going to start up a sales quote, this is where we've got a little bit of that analytics of that intelligence coming in from the system. So right now it said, you know what? I see this order from Carlos. I've already identified Carlos as from Adatum Corp. But even more so, I see that he is looking for some swivel chairs and for a conference table. So my suggested line items have actually taken a look at this email, pulled in the information, and made a recommendation for me. So from this, I can see, yep, it's actually parsed out the information, said 7 is the quantity, 2 is the quantity, and these are the products that I believe that you want. So I don't even have to go searching for those items. It's made that recommendation. I'm going to click on these now, And easily enough, what I can do here is go and click on OK, and it's created a sales quote. So my first step was to say, I want to create a sales quote. It's made some suggestions for me, and it's opened this up and it's already populated the line items on the sales quote. So this business intelligence has reduced the number of clicks and even the effort that has had to go in to create a level of accuracy. So the customer has also indicated that there's an attachment. So you'll notice that there's an attachment for these office items in his email. So what I can do here is I can actually click on the ellipse once again, and I can click on attachments because maybe I want to bring these attachments from that email forward into this quote. So click quickly and easily enough, I can click on attachments. And when I click on attach files, it's going to give me the option to do a couple different things. I can either attach from an email or upload the file. So from this, easily enough, I'm just going to attach from the email. I'm just going to go OK here. So you're seeing office items. It's a Word doc. It's pulled it in. It's recognized it. They're working together. Everything's getting pulled together for me. So I'm just going to hit close here. So it's actually brought this attachment attached to this document. I've got the sales quote created. So this is actually reducing the amount of work and effort that someone needs to do. I'm going to jump over to Business Central now for a second. So let me just minimize my Outlook. I got Business Central open in the background. So I've got real-time data happening here as well. So what that means is that quote that I just created has actually increased my sales quotes. So prior to actually creating that quote, I had 2 sales quotes sitting in the pipeline. I've now got 3, and I can click on the sales quote here and you can see that this was added. All that information that was apparent or brought forward from that quote is now directly brought in. Okay, so from here, I'm actually going to drill back on this quote, and you're seeing a couple really great things happening. First of all, it has actually pulled them out. They've said items 1908, 1920, the chair, and the conference table, quantities 7 and 2, and it's built out a quote for this customer. The other thing that's great is I can see up in this top right corner here, I've got some attachments. So remember I'd embedded those attachments in Outlook, it's brought them forward. You can see here when I go back into my one here, there's my attachment. So that's the images that were being brought forward. So I've jumped into Business Central just to demonstrate this. I didn't need to though because I was living in Outlook and everything was done in Outlook. So let me just close out of here for a second and I'm just going to move back. The second thing that Carlos had asked for is please send me a quote, right? So I built my quote. I jumped into Business Central to show you the quote, but I'm going to go back into my email now. All right, so I'm in my emails. We've done a quick review. We've saw in that email, we've got that attachment in there, and easily enough, what I can do is click on this ellipse again. So I'm using the tools that everyone's familiar with. I'm using Outlook, I'm using all the functionality in there, and I can easily click on send by email. So when I send by email, a couple things happening. You can see that it's embedding some of the information from that quote. So I built out what I want to present on the body of the email, but it's also added an attachment here, so that PDF that is sending the quote to Carlos. When I click on this quote, you're noticing as well, it's built on a Word document. It's presentable, it's sending out to the client. As I mentioned, it is a Word document, so we've had the ability to add our logos, we can add all that different functionality. Out of the box, Business Central comes with a number of pre-canned templates for you to use, but as I mentioned, they're Word documents, so if they need to be modified, it's Word. We're working in a Word document to move around that functionality. So I've now got that order, or that, I'll say that quote, I've sent it out to Carlos. The concept is Carlos has said, yeah, great, fantastic, love the price, to ship it out. We have the option of either transferring it to an order, transferring it to an invoice, whichever function that we want to do. To maintain, a little bit of speed in this demo today, I'm just going to actually convert this to invoice because I want to go through that cycle and convert from quote to cash so we can see that whole cycle. From here, going back into my Outlook, right? So in this Outlook, I can easily click on my 3 dots here, and I can either choose to make an order or make an invoice. As I mentioned, I'm just going to easily make an invoice here so that I can transfer it over. It's going to say, do you want to transfer this quote to invoice? I'm going to say yes. And what's happened is it's actually transferred that quote over to an invoice automatically for me. I did not have to jump in a separate application to do this. I'm still working in the same application. So, excuse me, let me minimize Outlook for a second. Real-time data. So I mentioned this earlier when we saw the quote turn from 2 to 3. Well, now I've seen the quote go from 3 to 2. Why? It's no longer a quote, guys. It's now an invoice. So you're seeing invoices have increased from 7 to 8 here. I'm going to drill back on this invoice. You're noticing here the invoice number that we saw earlier is still the invoice number that we're looking at. As we go through here, we've got all that information that was being pulled forward from that quote. So we've got the invoice that's being presented. And I'm just going to go back here for a second. I want to post the invoice. So as Steve mentioned, thank you, Steve. I've been working in the dynamic space for a really long time. So I've worked with some of those on-premise systems, and I can speak to, for me to be able to post, I would have to actually jump into the application, post from there. Well, in this case, I'm focusing on how easy it is to work inside a single source, Outlook. So from Outlook, I still have the ability to click on here, and I can click on post if I want. So what that's doing is it's giving me the ability to post the order right from Outlook. Okay, excuse me, and then I can just post. So I'm just going to move back on this for a second. Now, I've got a little screen here that shows I can now see that I've posted the invoice. I now have it open receivable. When I first started this, their balance was not $2,700, it was 0. I now have a customer balance here. I can still drill back into this customer balance, and I can see what makes up this balance. That's the $2,700 for the invoice. So very easy on that. So I'm just going to now move over. Okay, so we've done everything inside Outlook. We've seen how easy it is to create this order and everything along those lines, or not the order, but the invoice, transfer it from a quote to invoice, post it. I've done everything from Outlook. I'm going to actually move into Business Central for this last part and convert it over to cash now, okay? So from Business Central, you're going to notice that I have some shortcuts along the top. I've got this modern interface. I'm going to click on my cash receipts journal up at the top here. And from the cash receipts journal, I'm just going to drill into my batch that I've got created. So I've got this general batch created here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to set the amount. So I've just typed in quickly the $27.83.88 because that's the payment that Carlos had sent to me. From here, I'm going to indicate that this is going to be a payment on invoices, and I can easily click on the ellipse again and start to identify what I'm paying. So from this, it's drilling back into my apply records. And you can see that I've highlighted the row here. There's only one row to pay, so it's actually paying this. A couple things to note here, it is applying a purchase discount because this customer actually was entitled to discounts and even showed it on the invoice or the order quote that we sent to him that he would be entitled to it if he paid it on a prompt payment basis. So I'm just going to click on OK there. From this, if I wanted to, I can take a quick preview of the posting. And easily enough, I can just go preview posting. From here, it's drilling back into, if I were to post this right now, this is the effect that's going to happen. So I'm seeing the actual journal entry. So I'm increasing cash, reducing receivables, and remember I mentioned that $55 for the prompt payment discount? Fantastic, it's taking that into consideration also. So that's pretty quick and easy, that cash to, or the quote to cash process. So couple things just to note here. This, the benefits of this first pillar that we're talking about is the fact that it's going to allow users to work in systems that they're comfortable with. So they're working in Outlook, right? So it reduces that initial learning of a new system, and it reduces the time of data entry because we're working in a single system. I'm not bouncing back and forth between systems because Microsoft is building Outlook and BC to work together and talk to each other. It reduces the amount of time it takes to create documents. So every time that I have to jump from one document to another, it also creates that chance for me to make a mistake. Because, well, if anyone's worked with me in the past, you know my typing's horrible. I would type 1902 instead of 1920 almost every single time, but I probably would go 1092 on a couple occasions as well. The other thing that it's going to do is it's going to make the response time to a customer quicker, right? So I don't have to sit there going, oh, you know what, I got this order and I'm going to take it after lunch because it's going to take me 5-10 minutes to get this in. Doesn't do that because I'm able to easily create that order right from this window. Let's move on to the second pillar. Okay, so we talked about that user efficiency first. Let's talk about financial resiliency. So financial resiliency is more along the lines of where we talk about the flexibility in the ERP and its configuration, Okay, so this is allowing to quickly adapt and automating functions and processes that may have been manual or paper-based in the past. I'm sure going through COVID, Ahmed, you mentioned COVID and how there's been so much research and everything done on that basis. I'm sure everyone realizes, the workforce has turned hybrid. That's, probably a new term that's shown up. Well, it's not a new term over the last 2 years, but it certainly has taken on a different form or a different meaning over the last 2 years. A lot more people are working from home. If you look at our screens right now, Scott's working from home, I'm in the office. For us to be able to work together, that traditional paper-based method, I'd be like, well, I wouldn't drive over to Scott's house, but Scott would have to come into the office to pick up the papers for him to work on. Well, what we have is now different systems that are allowing us to, help map processes, automate and enhance the system. A lot of people talk about RPA or robotic processing automation using Power Apps and the Power Platform. Well, these are things that Business Central can do and D365 can do. As well, there is a whole host of the add-ons or extensions that can be incorporated into the application. So these would be specialty apps or teams that help design the system to process and leverage best practices and do more with less. So if you think about that process in the past where, if it was the approval, I had a payable that came in, I need to get it into the system, I need to walk over to Scott's desk to get approval before I can pay that payable or enter it or whatever that process is. That's going to be the next pillar that I'm showing. And that's going to be that financial resiliency. It's the ability for your company to grow without having to add additional people, for example, or automate process to make it easier for your company to grow. So let's take a look at this automate accounts payable process. This is going to be what I described, the initiate from an incoming document. So a payable coming in as a PDF, right? I need to upload it. So I'm going to use an OCR engine called Kofax to help automate the process of moving it, recognizing, reading the payable, moving it back into Business Central. This can also incorporate, if it's the first time seeing it, I'm going to show you how you can actually correct and transform that document so it can be pushed in, as well the approval process, and then receive it back from that OCR service. So now it's automatically pushed into Business Central. So let's initiate from an incoming document. I'm going to move back into Business Central here for a second. Now from this, I'm going to use an OCR system that supports a purchase invoice or purchaser credit memo or what have you. So I'm going to move down into my incoming documents. Now my incoming documents is just one of the functions that Business Central has. So it's actually recognizing documents coming in. From this, I can actually create either a document from a camera or create one from a file. So this is more or less, think of it like a PDF attachment that's come in. So I'm going to insert a file and I'm going to choose. So I chose a purchase invoice that was coming in from one of our suppliers. Now you're going to notice here that it's a new document. There's no OCR status set on it yet. So I'm going to send this out to our OCR service. The OCR service we're using for this demo is Kofax, although there are a number of different services available. So I'm just going to send to OCR service. And you're going to see I got a little message. Yep, everything was successful. I'm also seeing in the background that this document was sent and it's now sitting in a release status. Okay. I will now move into the correcting and approving of that document that came in. So imagine I pushed a document up to my OCR and it's like, this is the first time I've ever seen this document. I don't know who the vendor is or how much the amount is. So I'm going to just train the document quickly so that you can see this. So I've now moved over to somebody who has the permissions to go in here. So I have this incoming document waiting a verification. What that's done is it's actually jumped me out into the Kofax service. And I can see that there's a couple different documents awaiting this verification. Now, when it does pop me out, it's going to identify, you know what, I was not able to bring this back into BC because there's some errors or some warnings that I have to resolve before it can come in. So I'm actually going through the process to show you how to resolve it. But after I do this, the next time a document from First Up Consultants comes in, it's going to recognize it and that process is going to be automated. So from here, I'm going up to First Up Consultants and then I can actually enter in First Up Consultants as the vendor. So now it's recognized. If I see another document like this, I know it belongs to First Up Consultants. So even though it failed this time, it's not going to next time on this. The other thing is I've scrolled down to the bottom here and in my subtotal, I'm able to lasso and identify the net amount, right? So now that I've identified the net amount and I fixed all my errors, you'll see all my green boxes, I can easily enough just click on OK down in the bottom right corner. So the process was OCR, or a document came in PDF, I sent it up to OCR. There was a bit of an issue with it. I had to train the system. Next time I get first up consultants, not going to have an issue because I've already trained the system, but now I want to receive the document from the OCR service because there was that issue. From here, you can see that it is awaiting verification. So I can receive from OCR service, and because it had all the repairs done to it, or all the warnings have been resolved, it has now successfully imported the document. From here, I can easily just click on Create Document. So what this is showing is, even though I've gone through the steps to create it and everything, if this had been used before, so the next time I use First Contact, I could just create the document because it would push it out to the OCR service. It would read it, identify what it is, and then automatically create purchase invoice 107124. You can see when I drill back on this, it's actually pulling me into Business Central to the document that I had pulled in. It's created now vendor name, First Up Consultants. These were the lines that I had set up for it, as well as the document amount. So very easily, I'm able to move this document through, and I can easily just post this document. All right, so that is the OCR function, and showing how easy it is to actually move through and automate the process. So the idea of that second pillar was that we wanted to have financial resiliency. Part of the financial resiliency is the system being able to grow with your business, right? You don't want to outgrow the business right away. You want to be able to have it grow with you. And that's part of that process, is setting up some automation and functionality along those lines. All righty, so let's move on to the third pillar that I'm going to be talking about, and that's the architected for cloud security. So as an underpinning for the user efficiency and driving financial resiliency in the platform itself, Microsoft's architecture, with Microsoft Architecture, the platform supports automatic updates. Steve mentioned those before. So you aren't going through that process of doing the updates and the upgrades yourself. The system is going to be updated automatically for you. Before I get into the rest of the processes, I'd also like to talk or take a little segue at some of the other cloud-based analytic tools that can be incorporated with this, such as Power BI, to show some of the further integration of that unified nature of the Microsoft stack with Business Central. And then I'll come back to cloud security in a second, because there are some pretty cool things to show that, if Scott gives me an opportunity, I always take it. So I want to uncover some of the trends and opportunities, right? So I'm in Business Central right now, but Business Central being cloud-based, I'm actually going to go up to my Office account here, and I'm going to open up Power BI. So this is just one of the other tools that I can leverage Business Central with. I can either embed Business Central reports embed Power BI reports into Business Central, or I can go up and look at them in my tenant. So when I pop into my when I pop into my Power BI, you're seeing a couple different things. I've got my financial dashboard showing right away. And what this is doing is it's giving me the ability to get insights. So when I choose to get insights, what ends up happening is actually it's a component in Power BI which provides additional insights based on trends, historical data, and can also help provide some forecasts. The insights feature is actually built on a growing set of some pretty awesome advanced analytic algorithms. That's a sentence and a half or a mouthful. Developed in conjunction with Microsoft's research that will continue to see and allow more people to find insights and look deeper into their data. So it's giving you that intuitive look into the data. So I'm going to actually, and you'll see here, just to point out, when I clicked on the Get Insights, you're seeing here all the additional insights that were being pulled up based on the financial dashboard that I was looking at. I'm going to move over to my net change revenue here for a second, right? So when I move over to my net change revenue, I have another Power BI report, but once again, I have those Get Insights set up. And you can see that, a recent trend is that the total expenditures have most recently increased by 100%, over the last 8 months. So it's actually diving into that data and giving you a much more powerful look and analysis into that data that you're working with. So let me take a step back here and go back to cloud security. So for cloud security, we know that there's a couple things that have, I'll say, drastically changed over the last, well, for me, over the last 20 some years that I've been working in this industry. You know, back then when I started working in it in early 2000s, we'll say, actually it might have been slightly before that, but we'll just say early 2000s, just to put a line in the sand. Security was, you know, that concept of just keep people out of the building, because you didn't want people stealing your stuff. It wasn't so much about information, or, you know, if it was, you know, antivirus, you know, threats and stuff like that, things that were, you know, less global in nature, because the threats would become more global in nature. And you always want to make sure that you didn't want to expose your network to any of these external threats. So, you know, that mixed mode office environment that people were used to working in. So Business Central is designed with that security in mind, okay? So security starts in Business Central with that single sign-on. So using your Microsoft credentials, that same one that you use for Office 365, for example. Well, not for example, exactly as that. These are managed by the admins in your Canadian or US tenant. So whoever's managing your tenant, so one of the people in your office, the Office 365 administrator is going to be managing those. As well, Microsoft's data centers give you all the access to the D365 Dataverse, of which Business Central is part of, and the business application stack, including, you know, that's included in, you know, even large enterprises. So even if you're a small or medium business, you're still getting that same Dataverse and the applications that large enterprise are getting access to. Also, just as a side note for any Canadian partners, your data can also be hosted in a Canadian data center. So I know some of that questions have come up in the past with our company. So it's important to note that, you know, you do have decision of where you want the data to be held. So there are many layers of security that are both visible to the end users as well as happening behind the scenes. You know, if you think about those older on-premise applications, it's simply not financially sound for your IT to work at a level that Microsoft's working at. So the other point here, sorry about that, the other point here that I wanted to touch on is that this is granted on a conditional access. So by conditional access, we talked about the multi-factor authentication, that single sign-on that people have, but it also has that forcing of password changes. So looking at behaviors and part of that zero trust policy that Microsoft has put in place to help secure your data and your environment.
And Marvin, if I can jump in just on this slide.
Absolutely.
The Public Safety and National Security Lead from Microsoft Middle East and Africa is something that is really near and dear to my heart, because I was working with ministries of defense, security, and I always say to our customers, Microsoft's the only security vendor you never heard of. So, and you said something really, really important, Marvin, that I want to reiterate right now. In some of the slides I show our customers, 97% of the Fortune 500 companies are on Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. And they tell me, why would you show that? And we're SMBs. I say, you know why? Because you get the same compute power as security as a Fortune 500 company. Like if you see about the cloud and our on-premises server, the metaphor that comes in mind is like our grandparents would not have thought about a more secure place to place their money than in the house. Now you cannot place your money in the securest place is actually the bank. So that's actually how we evolve the model as Microsoft. But thank you. I wanted to share those thoughts just to reiterate, Marvin.
No, those are fantastic points to add, Ahmed, and it really shows the importance of security in the modern workplace. So maybe I'll pass it back over to you, Scott, now for some parting points.
Sounds great. Anything else to add, Steve or Marvin, as we get towards the wrap up? No? Okay. So time-wise, we're coming up towards the end of the webinar. Scott Jorgens, Director of Marketing. We've talked about a number of things today. The top 5 reasons for moving to the cloud with Business Central, replacing legacy infrastructure, the financial resiliency, which really tied well to Marvin's discussion on here's how Business Central looks and is integrated, the user efficiency, the designs that Endeavour puts in, and the designs that Business Central supports from a technology perspective to have that flexibility the additional app store and marketplace that Ahmed touched upon. And obviously, we just finished up with the cloud security and making sure that everything is architected in a fashion where you're getting that enterprise security out of the box to support your digital transformation. So next steps for those that are attending today, we'll follow up with a link to a fantastic Microsoft white paper that was released recently, the 9 emerging trends of the futurist CFO, really looking towards ahead. Again, focus on the enterprise space, but the concepts and knowledge and best practices are very much something that we bring back to the small and mid-market and to our clients. So I definitely encourage everyone to click on the link and read this white paper. We additionally have 2 additional white papers on our own website, EndeavourSolutions.ca. Choosing a new ERP, CRM business application for those that are in the market for something new, and talks about some of the things to look at when you are considering a new partner and a new application. And we also have one under the GP section, 10 proof points for moving from on-premise applications such as Dynamics GP to the cloud, and looking at some of those specific unique aspects. So I encourage you to visit our website and find those. We have a number of self-serve videos, recorded webinars, and other information on our website. We've really designed it to help clients and prospective clients be able to educate themselves and understand more about Endeavour, about Microsoft Dynamics, and ultimately Business Central. Next steps after today's session, feel free to reach out to us. Let's set up a discussion. Meet with members of our team, talk to Steve, talk to James. They can bring in individuals such as Marvin and members of his team for a discovery meeting. If there's a right fit, going through that discovery meeting, talking about some architecture, talking about your vision for the future and our shared vision for the future of how you can embark on your digital transformation. Pending those meetings often results in a personalized demo, sort of a day in the life of what it would look like for you and your team. And we're happy to work with you on those processes. So let's get started. Current clients, future clients, strategic in nature, reach out to us. Phone numbers, emails, and obviously our website is here. So we look forward to connecting with you following today's presentation. And if anyone's watching recording, we look forward to talking with you shortly. So with that in mind, thank you very much, everyone. We do have a chat window on as part of the webinar if there are any immediate questions. Otherwise, I encourage you to visit us online, reach out to Steve or others on our team, and we'll be able to help you as you look at your top 5 reasons to move to a cloud ERP. Thank you, everyone. Any final remarks from Steve, Ahmed, or Marvin as we wrap up today?
I would like to thank Endeavour for the partnership and with Microsoft and what everything they do for our customers and helping them really go from the actual stage to the desired stage. Because at Microsoft, we are customer obsessed. It's not about Dynamics 365. It's not about the products. It's about helping our customers sustain and have digital resiliency. Because if anything COVID showed us in those tough times is that we need digital resiliency. And that's why partners like Endeavour, partner with Microsoft, we really help our customers achieve that, because these are the businesses and the heart of the economical tissue in Canada. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Ahmed, for all your contributions.
Glad to be here.
Okay, everyone.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.